Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning, and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you've had a wonderful Monday, and of course, looking forward to this beautiful Tuesday that is coming up, and just wishing you and your loved ones all the very best today. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today, and this week we're looking at all those familial bonds and just, appreciations and love for all the loved ones that we have in our lives. And of course, family trees come to mind. What do you know about your family tree? I got digging a little bit more into mine because of the special book that we have today, because of the special guest that we have today, something that got me thinking deeply about that. So I hope that you join us on this journey today and get to enjoy this lovely book, and of course, a wonderful conversation to follow as well. I have my special guest today, Judy Gilliam, and I hope I am pronouncing that name correctly, and we'll have her try it out for us too when she gets on. But we do have a wonderful book coming up, and this one is called Florence and Her Fantastic Family Tree. Isn't that beautiful? Sounds amazing, and I guarantee you it is a good one. I hope that you stick around for it. This one is written by Judy Gilliam, illustrations by Laura ADDARI, who we hope would have joined us, but is all the way out in Italy, and hopefully next time she can be with us as well. And this one we're reading with permission of the publishers, FAMILIUS. Thank you so much for being here on Storytime today. As always, remember, please, to drop us a message. Let us know you are here. If you have a question for Judy, please leave it here so that we can definitely get to it. And if it comes later, I will do my best to get it to Judy later on. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime. Please remember that you can catch Storytime live 7 a.m. Pacific time right here on Facebook and YouTube. But remember too that you can catch us at 11 a.m. Pacific time for the recordings of the 7 a.m. And of course, you can catch us at your convenience, at your own comfort, at your own time at storytimewithmrlimada.com, at Storytime with Mr. Limada on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, you can get all information Storytime on Storytime with Mr. Limada on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here with us. A wonderful guest awaits, and a wonderful book awaits us too. So please join me in welcoming to Storytime Judy Gilliam. And of course, then we get to say hi to everybody that is with us here today, this morning. And of course, before then, meet our guest, and then we get to check in who is with us this morning on Storytime. Judy Gilliam, welcome to Storytime.
Good morning, Mr. Lamada. It's so good to be with you.
This is lovely. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I am coming to you from a little south of Atlanta, and I'm looking forward to sharing my book and to talking with all of your friends and
welcome to the community. Welcome to the community for sure. And talking of friends, let us see who is with us this morning just quickly. Good morning to you, Amanda West. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. And of course, Sarah and Nathan out in blue-skied Illinois. We're waiting on our snow day to arrive tomorrow, so we do appreciate more pictures of the winter wonderland. You know what you can do? Share your pictures of your winter wonderland so we can share them here here on Story Time too. But hopefully, you know, like it's not too disruptive. Hopefully your power stays on and everything else good. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for sharing. And of course, you are very welcome. Thank you for being here with us. Nathan and Sarah, one more time, a big hug to you. Thank you for joining us on Story Time. Clara and Erin, thank you for joining in. We got even more snow. Clara and Erin are taking it easy today with little codes. Oh, well, sending you love, love, love hugs. And hopefully you feel better soon. We hope everyone is well. They hear you loud and clear. I am doing well. Thank you so much for asking. And of course, we hope that everyone else is doing well too. Thank you for being here with us. OJ, how are you doing all the way out in Lusaka, Zambia? Of course, with Dede, Mariah, and of course, Charlie. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us all the way out in Eastern Zambia in the town of Katete. Thank you so much for being here with us. Sending you love, love, love. And I can see you're happy, Oscar. I know the Gunners won. I hope your season goes well. All right. So, Judy, you said you're joining us from somewhere south of Atlanta. Is that your home? Did you grow up in Atlanta or in that
I
town?
grew up in the little town of LaGrange, which is south of Atlanta, and I'm back here. I had a career that took me elsewhere, but I ended up in my own hometown. So it's been great to be here. I have to tell you guys that even in Georgia, we have very cold weather, and last night it was 25 degrees here.
Ooh.
Yes.
And I was complaining. I think yesterday was around 50s.
Right. So no snow though. We rarely get snow, but yeah. So I'm enjoying the pictures that you're posting.
Oh, thank you. Well, if you ever get a chance, you know, like send us a picture just so we can get an idea of what LaGrange is like for those that may have not visited like myself. Yeah. Thank you so much. So how does a little girl from LaGrange go on this journey? Where else have you lived? And then all the way in this journey to publishing books. How does that happen?
Okay. Well, I've actually worked and taught in New York and Ohio and Alabama and Georgia. So, but most of my career was in Georgia in the metro Atlanta area. So it's big place to be. My book comes from my life, and I think a lot of times writers do write from their own experience. And in my case, I have a very complicated family. And a lot of times when I talk to boys and girls, and I have read my book quite frequently, they wonder about their own family and they think, well, my family doesn't look like the family that I see sometimes in books. And that was the case for my grandchildren. And one of my grandchildren, Abby, actually asked me one day, she was probably about 8 or 9 years old. She said, who are all these people that I'm meeting?
From the mouth of babes, right?
Right, because as I said, we're kind of complicated in their divorces and adoptions and leavings. You know, there are all sorts of ways that my family has reworked itself over the years. And my granddaughter was confused, and I thought, you know, there are a lot of kids who might think, well, who are my people? And they're very extended. And so I sat and wrote this book, and with my granddaughter's question in mind, who are all these people and where do they fit in? And an interesting thing for me has been in working with children, we've actually created family trees. And for those of you out there who joined us today, I have free supplemental materials on my website, which I'm sure that we'll share, but I did put this. I hope you can see that.
We can see it and we'll put it up for sure.
But they're free supplemental materials so that your children, whether they're students or your own personal children, can create their family tree. And I can share a little bit of that later after we read the book. If you
no, I'm excited for people to go through this journey. And I'm so happy that you brought out this of course, we're going to meet Florence, and we'll just see how her family weaves in and out together. And so just want to really appreciate that, because families are very diverse, families are different, and there is no one way, right? And so I'm really happy that you got to do this, and I cannot wait for everybody else, if you've not yet met Florence. But of course, I'll join you on the other side after the reading. So now we have a reading from Judy.
Okay, and that's fun for me. That's a lot of fun. I'm gonna
All right,
hope
take
that I
it
get
away.
this just right and read my story to you. Let's see if I can position this just right. Okay. So, Florence and her fantastic family tree. At least Ms. Collins didn't assign us a diorama for the family project. She said, just create a family tree. Like that was so easy. The problem was that my family not only had a trunk, roots, leaves, and branches, but it had stickers and thorns and extra limbs. My family tree is prickly, scaly, and sometimes overgrown. My best friend Sanji, her tree is pretty straightforward, easy to understand. She has one mom, one dad, one brother, and when she puts her tree up on Miss Collins' classroom wall, it's going to look like this. But mine is going to take 3 or 4 poster boards and end up looking like a jungle of people. You see, I don't have a neat little family. I have extras. Let's see. There's me, Florence, and my brother Fred, and we have 4 parents. Well, make that 6. You see my problem. How do I explain this? Okay, first there was just my mom and dad, Betty and Bruce, and they got married and produced Fred and me. Ta-da! When Fred and I were really small, they broke up. And then Betty married James and Bruce married Lucy. Are you counting? That makes 4 parents now. Betty and James ended up adopting Caitlin, my half-sister, and Bruce and Lucy came up with 3 of their own, brothers Wills, Brian, and Percy. And then sadly, Bruce and Lucy divorced, and he married Kate, and Lucy married Fabian. If you're still counting, that's 6 parents. The original Betty and Bruce, Betty's second husband, James, and Bruce's second wife, Lucy, followed by his third wife, Kate, and stepmother Lucy's new husband, Fabian, a total of 6. Hard to keep up with, right? You can see that my family tree is going to take up a great deal of space on the classroom wall. And to add to that giant tree, Bruce and his wife, Kate, had a son, Sam, who's technically my half-brother. That's a lot of kids. There's me, there's Fred, then there's Caitlin, 3 brothers, Wills, Brian, and Percy. And oh, don't forget about new baby, Sam. So let's look at what this family tree is going to look like now. Sometimes even I get confused about all of my parents and siblings. So I worry that my teacher and the students will be really confused. But that's not my only worry. Will my tree actually fit on the classroom wall? What do I do if it's too big? Can I explain who is who? Will anyone believe me? Should I bring my whole family to school? No, let's just stick to paper. I may need help taking it into class and taping it to the wall, but here goes. My family with all the parts. The stems, the branches, the trunk, the leaves, and the nuts. It might not be simple. It might not be simple. And it might not be easy to describe, but these are my people, and they're going to take up most of Miss Collins' wall. But do you know the best part? That's me. Right in the middle of this great, big, loud, colorful, fun, crazy family that I call mine. Next time I'll include my grandparents. There must be 20 of them. I hope you could see that.
It's
a little hard to hold it and explain. Several people have asked me, well, would you write a book about your grandparents? And I thought, yeah, I probably could do that.
Yeah. So would you be thinking of that as a sequel to this one, or would it be a standalone?
I think it would be a sequel because Florence is such a part of this. And
Yeah.
I had a really great time putting this down and writing it. And I thought I might share a little bit of my journey with that, or maybe there's some questions.
Oh yeah, no. So if people joining us, please just again thank you for being here with us, Amanda, West, Sarah, Nathan, Erin, Clara. Hopefully you feel better soon, and hopefully you enjoyed that book as well. Oscar, everybody else that is joining us, and of course if you're joining us later on for the recordings, feel free to leave us a question, and we'll make sure that we get it to Judy so you can get some answers to those queries. But yeah, just thinking about that too as we go into your journey. I know that quite a bit of your life. I mean, there's so many intersections here. Your love of family, you're an educator, you've been a principal, you've been a superintendent. There are all these it's a confluence of things. So how did they all come together in forming this book? Or how did you form this book?
Thank you, Mr. LaMotta. That's a great question. And all of those things are very important in terms of work, but my greatest role, my best thing I've ever done is my children and grandchildren. And so when I could see how confused Abby was about who all these different branches of the family tree were, I thought, what a great way to write a book, to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And she's now 18 and graduating from high school, but the journey to get this published, I think, was as interesting as the story itself.
Oh, yeah.
And I contacted a lot of publishing companies, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you this one little story. When I would get lots of rejections, that's just a part of trying to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, several years ago, probably 2018, before
hold that thought. Before 2018, we have some questions coming in.
Oh, good.
Now, hold that thought. We'll come back to it for sure. But Clara is asking, what is a half brother or half sister?
It is so great, Clara, that you asked that question, because once this book was published and it got reviewed, one of the reviewers who wrote criticism about that term, and a half brother is, or let's say you have one parent in common. So in the case of the half brothers, Percy and Brian and Wills, the father was the person in common with Florence. Florence's father was the same as Brian, Percy, and Will's father. So it wasn't that you had both parents in common, because then that would be your brother, your full brother, I guess you could say. But you know what? I found that criticism was very, very useful to me, because I never realized that using that terminology, half brother, half sister, stepsister, etc., is really a way to exclude people. It's not a positive thing. And if I had it, or if I was able to write the book again, I wouldn't use the term half brother or stepsister or any of those terms, because in a family, you are brother and sister, mom and dad. And I realized too late, and that's why I'm saying, Clara, thanks for the question, is that's probably not what I would do the next time.
Yeah, but just to go back on it, so you're saying so they shared a dad, but their moms were different.
Correct.
And it could be the other way around, and so many other permutations of that, right?
Correct. Or when, let's say, your father or mother marries someone who already has children that they bring into that marriage or relationship, those would be step brothers and sisters. But you're never too old to take constructive criticism and rethink the way you think about something. And that's what I had to do with that terminology. I had to rethink and say, that really does sort of marginalize. There's a big word for you. It marginalizes.
Right. No, I could definitely see that as somebody that has half siblings. So I definitely get that, and I feel like, when I do say that, I feel like there's an othering that happens with the others, and so it's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And Clara, great question. So if there are more, please bring them up. And then we do have a thought too here coming from Sarah and Nathan, and they're saying now they're excited now to do their family trees. And so I know that we'll be doing our own snow days what we'll be doing in our own snow days to come. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful book. And of course, too, Judy mentioned that there is a resource that you can find at her website by judygilliam.com. And so you can find that, and the resources on there, free resources, you said, right?
They are. They're downloadable. And I did a part for counselors, for teachers, and for parents. So I'm going to show you the parent one first. This is the parent guide. So I thought it was very important that I wrote out like a lesson plan, so to speak. And this is for the parent, because sometimes parents need a little bit of help with what do you do first, what do you do second, etc. So there's a guide for parents, and then there's a page. Let's see if I can get this. There's a page to plan your family tree. So you and your teacher or your parent sits down, and before they ever do the tree, they write down the names. In this case, and this is not, you can change this up. Who's the head of your family? Who are the brothers and the sisters, the uncles, the aunts, the cousins, and any other members that you might have? Some kids like to include their pets here. That's great. So before you ever do the tree, you would do this little bit of planning. And then I gave you in that pack, or in that supplemental material, an actual copy of Florence and her family tree. I thought that was important for you to see. You see good old Florence is right there in the middle, and all of her people are out there. And then I included a blank family tree for you to put. Some children like to draw themselves in here, draw their face and put their name, and then they include all the other family members. And I want to tell you that I had a student who was so excited about this they took the blank family tree and they went to their mother's photograph album and they cut it up. I'm not suggesting that. And they had
Sorry for that parent, but oh my goodness, yeah. Please back up your pictures if you can.
Right, but they actually went to a photograph album where, you know, back in the day before digital, you had pictures, and so they did that. But I always like to tell children after they finish this, and you boys and girls who are out there, where are you going to display it? Where might you put it? Would you call up your grandmom or your aunts and uncles and say, hey, look at what I did, and FaceTime them and show them the family tree? You can put it on the fridge or in your bedroom. It's a great conversation to have with your family members once you finish it. So I'm glad I can share that and make sure that your counselor friends and because there's different guidance for counselors and teachers and parents.
Okay, no, absolutely. No, I love it. And I'll definitely be sharing some more. And of course, everybody that is here too, those resources are there and we're here to share with each other. So if you know friends that could use them, friends that could benefit from this, why not share it, share away? And another question coming in, Clara wants to know if it's a paper tree or a real tree. I love it.
Well, I guess in the case of this book, it's a paper tree. But isn't that interesting to think about? You could actually go out in your yard and use a real tree in your yard and maybe some tiny thumbtacks and put the names there and tack them up on the tree. I've never thought about that. Who had that great question? Oh, Clara.
Clara, yep. No, she's on the roll. I love it. And just thinking too, again, just a reminder that you can find this resource at byjudygilliam.com. And of course, too, you can follow Judy at, I love the name of this, her Instagram at GG.
And you know, Mr. LaMotta, the reason for GG is my 5 grandchildren. I tend to get very adventurous and animated, and they'll say, geez, Gigi. So
no, thank you for sharing that with us. Also, I had a thought too as you were talking. You mentioned that your greatest, achievement or thing has been your kids and your grandkids. How are the two different? How have those two experiences been different for you?
Well, as a mother, I was a single mother most of the time of my children growing up. And as you can tell by this book, there were a couple of marriages and uncoupling and different designs of our family tree. And so as a mother, a single mother, I had to be everything to everybody. I was it. And as a grandmother, that's the greatest thing in the world because you don't have to play those roles. Their parents are playing those roles. They are seeing to the discipline and the counseling and all the things that go into parenting. And I can just enjoy these 5 grandchildren. And there's not only Abby, but there's Madeline, Grace, Christian, and Radley. And they are all my pride and joys, as we say in the South. My pride.
Pride and joy. I love it. Yeah. Oh, and then so how has it been though? With the grandchildren.
They've come to a couple of my book readings because I've done a number of them. They actually live in Florida, and I've done quite a few down that way: Florida, Alabama, Georgia, in the Southeast, and. They've come to them and they beam just like proud little peacocks.
Yeah.
It's been fun. And I've also been able to go to their school and read the book because as I said, Abby is now 18, but the other ones go all the way down to 6. So they're still enjoy my coming to school.
Yeah. No, reading. It's amazing to watch them grow. I mean, I have my nieces and nephews and especially the ones when I moved to the US, the ones that were 6 and 4 at the time, they're now 16. No, they're now almost 18 and 16. And it's so mind-blowing for me to see them contact me through phone. I'm like, wait, these are my
I
little
know.
girls. Oh, come on. Yeah, so I'm always just, yeah, like it's such a trip to see them now being in high school and just living
I
life.
know.
Yeah.
It's a great adventure, and I wanna make sure as an educator, put my educator hat on, I wanna be sure that kids understand that just because their family's not like it was when they read about it in a children's book,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's not exactly like that, every family is unique and wonderful. And
Yeah.
I've known, as an educator, I've known kids who were being raised by their grandparents or their
Mm-hmm.
uncles, or they were in foster care. I've
Yeah.
had homeless children. The families are so, so different, and
Right.
you're still that very important person in the center of that family tree. And
Mm.
so, as an educator, I want all of my students to feel like
Do that.
they're unique, they're
Yeah.
wonderful, and
Yeah.
it's a
No,
good
I
lesson.
I really appreciate you highlighting that, because in the book you mentioned, or Florence, at least we get that anxiety from her a little bit when she mentions like she worries what the others will think. And I
Right.
feel like we're like that too. We worry about what others will think, or we worry about thinking about what we think they're going to think, and so many. So
Right.
I really appreciate you highlighting that and mentioning that. And so, as educators, as parents, and even as kids, what are some tools that you have, that help us or remind ourselves, that can you jolt us back into, like the right framing of this, where we see that every family is unique, we are unique, and we are special in our own ways.
I think the best thing that a parent, teacher, or counselor can do is to share, especially the parents, share family stories. Everybody's got a story.
Hmm.
Everybody. And if
Right.
you go back far enough, and some of the stories aren't pretty, some of the
Right.
stories aren't positive necessarily, but
Hmm.
they're still a learning tool. So if you go back into the grandparents and the great grandparents, like, as you can probably see, I've got red hair. I'm from way back in the day. There was my family came over on a boat from Ireland, you know,
Hmm.
chased out of Ireland because of religious reasons.
Right.
Um, there are so many stories of the enslaved people who have brought here, not of their own free will. Those are not necessarily pretty stories, but
Hmm.
they're important to the family dynamic, and they're
Right.
important to understanding the family. So
Hmm.
I would encourage parents to get into the stories and show the pictures. If you've got a photo album, pull the photo album out. Look at
Hmm.
that funny bathing suit that she was wearing back in the 20s, and look at that wedding dress, and look at the babies and so forth. I would encourage you to share stories, to share memories, to share pictures, and
Yeah.
that's just something that a family can do. I think
Yeah.
I think what a teacher can do is make sure that you're sharing stories. And I always loved reading aloud to my kids.
Mm,
I
mhm.
was a 5th and 6th grade teacher for most of my teaching career. And make sure you're bringing books that have a variety of parents, a
Yeah,
variety of
yeah,
family types.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And seriously, that was my next question on my notes, because I was going to ask that, and you started talking about it, which is perfect. But also just thinking as we are talking, I'm just thinking too, we do have kids on this, like on here with us today listening. And so just wondering, say for you, Sarah and Nathan, for you, Clara, and everybody else that will join us later, what is it? What do you do to remind yourself that you're special? Right? If you can share with us, we would appreciate that. What is it that you do to remind you that you're special? And then we can share that with other kids. Of course, not everything that we do works for somebody else, but hopefully it gives them something to think about as well. So if you do have that, please share away. But next question too was, you've done, it's an amazing book.
Thank you.
I love it, and Laura Adari's illustrations also just really bring it to, like to life, really. And so just thinking about that too, how has been your journey? I know that you've done another book as well, and so how has it been with that being self-published, and this one is being published by Familius?
Right.
What have been some of the learnings you've had from those?
Okay. That when I think I was at one point telling, and maybe the adults will be interested in this, especially if you're going to write a book. I sent out 92 inquiries. Queries is what they call them in the publishing world. I sent out 92, and I would get amazing communication back saying, "Thanks so much for your book that you sent us, or your ideas that you sent us, but it's just not a fit." That's my favorite one. It's not a fit. And so you have to take this and you that's one of my lessons learned. You must have a thick skin. You're going to get rejected. But one day in 2018, I opened my email up, and Familius Publishing Company and they're out in Sanger, California. I opened up the email from the publisher, and he said, "Hi, Judy, we think your book is very clever and we'd like to publish it." Well, as we say in the Deep South, I just about fell out. I had to sit down. And that began the journey of writing or getting this put together. They chose the illustrator. She and I communicated. She sent me sketches. I wrote comments, or sometimes I said, "That's perfect." And then the editor gets involved. And for example, there was a change. I don't know if you remember when I read the book, but there was a adoption of Caitlin. Well, originally, and I wanted to be sure we had some diversity in my story. So I made Caitlin Asian. But originally I had her name as Lily. So the editor of the book at Familius wrote to me and said, "We don't want to use the name Lily because we think it's too stereotypical of an Asian girl, especially one who's, say, being adopted." And I had to think about that. And I thought, really? Lily is a name that it would not be a good choice. So I pushed back a little bit. Didn't know that was a stereotypical Asian name. But then I listened to them because they are the editor. And they have a greater, I wish they had picked up on the half-brother, Clara. I wish they had picked up on that. You would have been a great editor there. So that was a lesson learned too, is that you need to, you take that criticism in. And I think, Mr. LaMotta, I veered off your question a little.
No, this is great. No, that's the thing too. Like I love all this extra information too, because I think everybody that is listening out there, I think that's what we're here for. And you're allowing me opportunity here to answer questions that I have not asked, because I probably wouldn't have. So it's good that you're sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
Well, I do believe I learned a lot of lessons, because there is a difference between being published by a publishing company and self-publishing. And first of all, I was very honored and so thrilled that somebody wanted to publish my book, because then they take on all the responsibility and the expense of doing everything. You help them with marketing the book, but certainly they take on the expense. And then to self-publish, you are the one who's taking on all of the burden and the expense and everything, finding the illustrator and doing the marketing and doing the editing and all that sort of thing, and uploading it to the publishing place you're going to publish it. But I did want to share, Mr. LaMotta, that especially for the adults, and I think maybe the kids would get something out of this as well. In my case, one of the lessons I learned is don't rush your writing. I
Mm.
probably thought about Abby's question for a year, and I would mull around ideas.
Mm.
How would I do this? And then after a lot of thought, one day I said to myself, you just need to sit down and write this. And that's what I did. And so in
Yeah.
about a 2-day period, I had thought about it so much and hatched it that it was time to write it. So I would
Yeah.
say that's a something that you can't rush. You can't
Right.
take your
No,
time.
I appreciate that. And then coming back to that, since you mentioned uh Florence and Abby's question too. So is who is Florence in this when we bring it to real life? Is Florence Abby or is Florence you? Whose point of view is it?
I think it's Abby, actually, because Abby is the one who has half brothers and stepsisters and several marriages that had father figures and
Yeah.
divorces and deaths and different things. And I think it's Abby. And
Yeah.
the point is that Abby's family is very different than, say, the children who are listening, and it's different than the one I grew up in, and that's okay. That's
Right.
actually great. And
Yeah.
celebrate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, and I know too, just to wrap us up, you mentioned bullying being something that you advocate against. And so what are some things that have been done, and what messages do you have to share with us on that?
You know, and I'll be very brief about this.
Mhm.
This book, The Magical Heart of T-Dog,
Mm,
which my friend Mary Evelyn Brown, who is a clinical psychologist in Jackson, Mississippi, she
mm,
and I wrote this together, and it was based on her Boston Terrier who comes to her counseling sessions, and she
mm,
counsels a lot of children and parents, and it seems that more and more those conversations that she's having with parents and kids are about children being bullied. So
mm,
Mary Evelyn and I wrote this book to help, again, teachers, parents, counselors in working with kids. And we want the child, and I'm happy to share this possibly another time. We
mm,
want a child to read this or have it read to them and come away with 3 really strong ways to cope with
mm,
bullying, and that's what we've done. And then in the G's Gigi Instagram, what I've tried to do is, if you follow it from the beginning, I actually read the book and then I talk about things that parents and schools can do. And most recently, I've started talking about what if you, as a parent, realize it's your kid who's the bully.
mm,
It's your
mhm,
kid. And this is so timely because
mm,
in the wake of violence that we see in America, um,
yeah.
many of those people who are doing the violence were bullied.
Mm.
There's a huge, a lot of research on that, and
Correlation, yeah.
yeah, I won't quote the number, but a high percentage of people who perpetrate violence have
Mm,
been bullied.
mm,
So I think it's a worthy worthy topic. And our little dog T Dog, of course, that stands for therapy dog.
uh-huh.
He will get up next to the kids in the sessions, and they pat him and they talk to T Dog. And it's easier for them to talk to the dog than it is to sometimes talk to the parent.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's that story for
Yeah.
another day.
No, no, I love that. And thank you for highlighting that, for doing that work. So everybody is joining in, and please do share this resource with others as well. Follow Judy at G's GG. Follow there and get to see these videos. And also, Judy, of course, I'll check in with you at some point, maybe with your permission. Maybe we can have those also shared to the Storytime platform, so people can get to see
Certainly.
that
Yes.
and join in that important conversation. And I think I love that aspect of, what if your child is the bully? What do we do? What steps do we take then? Thank you so much for sharing that, and just thank you for sharing yourself for this wonderful book and for spending time with us here on Storytime today.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
And to everybody that joined in, we did have today the author of this amazing book, Florence, and her fantastic family tree. And that's Judy Gilliam. And of course, this one is illustrated by Laura ADDARI, and we're reading it with permission of the publishers, FAMILIUS. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Absolutely appreciate you all. And please, if you do have questions, more questions for Judy, please feel free to send them our way. And of course, follow at Instagram at GG and get to see what's happening there. But of course, we're back tomorrow for more story time, and we bring back a classic. Well, this one is first time on story time, but of course, most of us know this poem by Robert Frost. So this one is coming up, and it is illustrated by Vivian Minaker, and it's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. For all you, my friends out in Illinois, waiting for your snow, and of course in Massachusetts, having your snow days as well. So we're stopping by the woods tomorrow on a snowy evening. How long we'll be out there, who knows? Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Absolutely appreciate you. And Judy, I will catch you on the other side of this. And oh, sorry to hear that. Tara, saying my laptop battery died, but wanted to say thank you for sharing your book. We love the story and Q&A, and thank you indeed. I know the resources that you got to share with us too. It's a wonderful community that we have here, and thank you, Judy, for being a part of it today. Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you. All right, I'll catch you on the other side. Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. That was Judy Gilliam joining us today from LaGrange out in Georgia. So thank you so much for being here. Absolutely appreciate the time we spent together. This has been Storytime for today. This has been Storytime for this wonderful Tuesday morning. Please do remember to join us tomorrow for Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Thank you indeed for being here. Thank you. And we hope that you can join us. And also remember, too, that we are celebrating Marietta's book, which is coming out on March 1st, 2023, Jack, the Library Cat. So keep an eye out for that one. And of course, amazing stories to come this week, including, of course, Stopping by Woods. And then we Hear Them Roar. And of course, too, we do have No Matter What, which is a foster care tale. So do join us for that one as well. Thank you for being here so much to everybody that has been here, sending you love, sending you good wishes, and hope that you have a wonderful day. This has been Storytime. Much love from me, and I will see you again tomorrow for more Storytime. Bye-bye.
Storytime with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, Storytime with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start our reading? I just can't wait to be hearing Storytime with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, Storytime with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all reading? I just can't wait to be hearing Storytime. Storytime with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Storytime with Mr. Lamada. brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to hear it. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to hear it.